It's the Brown Album Part 2. Brown Harder. The Brown Strikes Back. The Brown Album Reloaded. The Final Brown. Until the next one. Recently, I uploaded my Worst Songs by the Beatles video, and it's fair to say the reception was mixed.
Little child, little child, little child, won't you dance? The world is treating me bad. Misery time for you right now, don't bother me. Oh, no, no, not a second time.
Just a small selection of some of my biggest fans there. Now you may have noticed that I start every video by declaring that Apple Jams is your Beatles hangout. And this hangout is built on democracy, and the people have spoken. I have taken the liberty of painstakingly compiling all of the feedback, every comment, every complaint, every disagreement, every "what's wrong with you?" and I've put it into a spreadsheet. And the results might just surprise you. Hello, hello, and welcome to Apple Jams, your Beatles and solo Beatles hangout. I'm so glad to see you here, so glad you could come. I have one little baby request, and that is, if you would, please me by smashing a like on this video and subscribing if you haven't already. That would really help me if you can. Okay, quick bit of housekeeping. My last Brown Album video had a few people moaning that I need to get on with it quicker and stop blabbing on at the beginning. The irony being that that was actually the first video that I'd actually done chapterization on, to make skipping around the video super easy. To be fair though, I don't think I actually mentioned it in the video itself. I'd only put a comment in the description. So this time, if you're thinking to yourself, then please do feel free to use the playback controls to skip ahead to the actual list. Please do use the chapters. I respect your time, even if I don't necessarily respect mine. Just doing some recording at 11 o'clock at night. Not a big deal. Right, so if you haven't seen it already, please do watch my Brown Album video to get a flavour of which songs I think are the worst. Now, of course, I don't actually think there is such a thing as a bad Beatles song. Except for Wild Honey Pie, of course. Oh my god, it's the worst. I hear it in my nightmares. So what these are the songs that I like the least. Now, the comments are genuinely mixed. Some of you did actually agree with me. Some of you very much disagreed with me. And one of you wanted to fight me at dawn on Hampstead Heath. Most welcome, however, was the insight into what you would have included on your Brown albums. I found the rationales really interesting to read. So what I did was I spent an evening compiling all of the songs that were mentioned that had negative comments and whacked them into a spreadsheet to calculate a frequency tally that would tell us which songs you think deserve to be on the Brown album. Now, if somebody agreed with me, then I took that as a tally for each of the songs that I included on my version. It's worth bearing that in mind because inevitably there's a kind of bias towards my version of the Brown album and the songs that I chose, and that's somewhat unavoidable. After all, everyone's responding to my list, they're not coming to it from a blank slate. A bit of bias is somewhat inevitable. So I'm going to go through your version of the Brown album first with the songs that I put on my version removed, and then at the end I'll show you where these songs sat amongst the wider list. I'm also disregarding my rules from the previous video, so covers are allowed this time, instrumentals are allowed, and avant-garde soundscapes are allowed. Something of a giveaway for track 1 there. Revolution 9. The only rule I'm keeping from my version is the broadly 40 minutes runtime, so that'll amount to about 12 songs, a fairly decent slice of Brown there, without getting too bogged in the weeds of it all. I'm also going to take a few breaks to share some of my favourite comments from my version of the Brown album, so keep your eyes peeled for those. Maybe you'll even see your own. So without further ado, here is your version of the Brown album.
Number 9. Number 9, number 9.
Perhaps surprising absolutely no one, the most reviled track in the Beatles catalogue, with 26 mentions, is the avant-garde clue sound collage that is Revolution 9. My version of the Brown album was meant to be a song album, but honestly, if we're including anything, I can't argue with this result. Once you've heard it once or twice, you've basically completed the experience. I mean, nobody's sticking on a record thinking, oh, I fancy a bit of number 9, number 9, number 9. It's not entertaining. And yes, there is an absolutely valid defence that it is art, and art isn't always meant to be entertaining. Fair enough, I suppose. The first time I heard it, I was genuinely freaked out. Maybe that's the point. It feels like the culmination of the White Album's increasingly unsettling atmosphere, the tension, the weirdness, the sense that the whole thing might fall apart at any minute. And for that reason, it kind of works on that album. But ultimately, no one is spinning a Beatles record because they want 8 minutes of tape loops. It's just not what they're known for. So its position on the Brown album is, I think, very secure.
Bang, bang, Maxwell, silver hammer came down upon her head.
Coming in second place with 24 mentions is Abbey Road's Maxwell Silver Hammer. This makes it the highest placed song on the Brown album, given that Revolution 9 is, well, not one. Look, I get it, this song is not well liked. Least of all by the other members of the Beatles. McCartney absolutely flogged it in the studio, trying to perfect it in the same way that he did with Obla Di Obla Da, which in turn was another tune that drove John, George and Ringo up the wall. And critics haven't exactly embraced it either. Author Ian MacDonald practically sets it on fire in his book Revolution in the Head. Me? What can I say? I kind of like it. I think the wordplay in it is fantastic. PC31 said we caught a dirty one. Come on, that's brilliant. What I would say is, and I agree on this, is that it absolutely sticks out like a sore thumb on Abbey Road. It feels like it should have been a B-side to something. Maybe to something.
Please don't be long.
We got 21 mentions for George's Blue Jay Way. Not gonna lie, I did consider it for my version of the Brown album. But mine already had quite a lot of George, and I didn't want it to look like I was launching some kind of personal vendetta against George Harrison. And I don't mind it. It's creepy, it's psychedelic, it's got that fog rolling in over LA vibe. But I accept that it is a bit dull, dreary, droning and dirgy. A perfectly valid contribution to the Brown album in my book. Now let's take a quick break to look at some of my favourite comments from the first Brown album video. Here's Beatley Tone from Beatley Tone's Beatles channel declaring that I am the mayor of Wrongtown, which really made me chuckle. Fun video, but it turns out you're the mayor of Wrongtown. You were only supposed to blow the bloody doors off. I would have preferred you to have stayed on brand though, Tone. How about the mayor of Browntown? Wait, he also informs me that Mary Jane is slang for marijuana, something that a few people pointed out. Yes, to be clear, I am aware of that. I have been a teenager. I just wondered if the Mary Jane in the song was actually based on a real person. You know, in the same way that she came in through the bathroom window refers to Diane Ashley, who broke into Paul's home in St. John's Wood by climbing in through the window. Here's a fun little contradiction. The first comment by Kevin Valente is all Beatles songs are bad, which is immediately followed by Misery is one of my favourite songs. OMG, I'm crying. Pick a side, Kevin. And thank you so much to Andy C7P3J, who referred to me as a 30-year-old dork. I am more than happy to accept dork if you also think I'm 30 years old. You charmer. Anyway, let's get back to our track list.
You better run for your life if you can, little girl. Hide your head in the sand, little girl.
Now, I'm going to confess, I actually should have included this on my version of the Brown album. I do genuinely regret not doing so. I had a go at Harrison for the slightly controlling, slightly uncomfortable lyric in You Like Me Too Much, so the fact that I let Run For Your Life slip through the net is baffling, frankly. And clearly you guys agree. This one racked up 20 mentions. So what was I thinking? Honestly, I think I was just blinded by how much I love the music. It's got a real country and western gallop. It's fun to sing. And when I was younger, I never really paid attention to the lyrics. Saying things like, you're dead, or I'm going to kill you, gets thrown around so casually when you're a teenager. You don't really stop to think to consider the weight of it. And yes, I've heard the defences. The murder ballad is a folk staple. It's just a character. It's of its time. Well, sure. But historically popular doesn't automatically mean morally fine, does it? I mean, do I have to bring up the Black and White Minstrel Show? The truth is, a lot has changed for me since becoming a dad to two beautiful little girls who I would literally die for to protect. So hearing John sing something like, catch you with another man and that's the end, little girl. Well, Lennon, if that was my daughter, you'd have to go through me first.
What a shame Mary Jane had to pay at the party.
18 mentions for this one, and I think I've said all that I'm going to say for this one. It was an honourable mention on my version of the Brown album. I didn't include it because it was never actually released. But rules aside, it seems that a lot of you guys agree with me. Because, of course, you are mostly sensible and right-thinking people. Let's explore that, shall we? With another look at some comments. David Beck 2383 made a really good point about how the functionality of our playback equipment massively affects the way we consume albums and songs. The gist is, skipping songs on vinyl is a pain. You've got to get up, lift the stylus, move it, put it back down. So he'd usually just listen to the whole album rather than bother skipping the tracks he wasn't keen on. Which means that the album became an all or nothing experience. It got me thinking thinking about how music consumption has changed over the years. CDs gave us easy skipping, MP3s gave us curated playlists, and Spotify and the streamers brought us algorithms, personalised recommendations, and endless shuffle. We're moving further and further away from the album, from that slow burn relationship where songs had a chance to grow on you. And honestly, I think that's quite sad for future generations. I wonder if the next comment will be quite as thought-provoking. Okay. Normal service resumed.
We all live in a yellow submarine. Yellow submarine.
Ringo's time to shine on Revolver racked up 16 mentions. Does it deserve to be on the Brown album? Well, I'll confess, I skip Yellow Submarine every time I hear it. Whether that's on Revolver, whether that's on the Red album. Heck, I'll even skip it on its own album, Yellow Submarine, for goodness sake. But that's me now. The 30-year-old me. Right, Andy? Kid me, however, absolutely loved Yellow Submarine. And my girls love it today. This is a kid's song, 100%. So yeah, I guess if we're judging it from the point of view of what adult Beatles fans want to hear, then yeah, it deserves to go on the Brown album. But think about that for a second. If it goes on Brown, then logically it doesn't go on Red, which means that we're denying it the chance to be absorbed by osmosis by generations of boys and girls sat in the back of their parents' car. Be careful what you wish for on this one, I think.
Mr. Moonlight.
15 mentions, and Mr. Moonlight was denied from being a part of my version of the Brown album due to my no covers rule. There are a few covers on Beatles for sale, and I'd say they range from fine to unremarkable. They're not terrible, they're not amazing, they're just there. Is this the worst cover the Beatles ever did? That could be a whole discussion on its own. And its place in here as track 7 on your version of the Brown album kind of suggests that, yeah, it is. Also with 15 mentions, You Know My Name, Look Up the Number is a pretty straightforward choice. I dismissed it from my version of the Brown album because I didn't really class it as a song. But to be honest, I'm not sure why. Sure, it's bonkers, it's disjointed and haphazard. It sounds like it has a multiple personality disorder. But it is a song. It's not a sound collage like Revolution 9. And it's not even especially experimental. In fact, if I'd have given it a bit more thought, I think I would have probably put it on my version of the Brown album too. So we've established that it is a song. But I think we can all agree that it's not a particularly serious one. Clearly inspired by The Goon Show, which was a radio comedy that Lennon absolutely adored. I actually used to think that Monty Python was involved. There's a vocal in it that sounds the absolute spit of Eric Idle to me. You know, the bit where he's like, you know my name.
You know my name. I'm the number.
Anyway, it's a fun listen, but it's not one you're going to go back to again and again. Time for another comments break, and Chivine 06729 had one simple wish. Before a second passes in this video, I really hope Little Child is on the list instead of I Wanna Be Your Man. Followed up shortly after with The Lord heard my prayer. Bless you, my little child. Get it? Here, Henry Alva 8819 opens up about his fractious relationship with his father. I remember asking my dad for a Beatles album and he came home with Sgt. Pepper's. I told him that wasn't the Beatles, to which I responded, what did your dad say? To which he responded, he called me an idiot. Sorry to say, Henry, I think I'm with your dad on this one.
What goes on in your mind?
Poor old Ringo. He only got one song per album. We've already got 2 of them on the Brown album. With 13 mentions, Rubber Soul's What Goes On makes the cut. I do wonder if this gets a bit of a hard time just because it's a Ringo song. I don't actually think it's that bad. Maybe it's because I've got a bit of a soft spot for the country and western leaning Beatles songs. And I think that style suits Ringo as much as anything. Anyway, I don't have particularly strong feelings either way on this one. It's probably the second least liked Rubber Soul song. While we're on the subject, check out Ringo's latest album, Look Up, which is his first proper country record since Bukus of Bloobs. Bloobs? It's honestly not bad, you know. I don't know how to say bukus. Bukoops? Bocos? Oh dear, we were always going to get around to this one eventually, weren't we? Also with 13 mentions, Obla Di Obla Da is another one of those Paul pet projects that drove the other Beatles balmy with his incessant striving for perfection. It took 42 hours to complete. I'm not surprised that Harrison was singing We All Know Obla Dee Blah Da in Savoy Truffle. He probably knew it better than he knew his own name by that point. I completely understand why the other Beatles were frustrated. But as a listener, I can't say I agree with it being on the Brown album, because that 42 hours paid off. This song is tight. The performance sounds almost mechanical in how precise it is. And I really like it as a little working class Britain story. It reminds me a little bit of When I'm Cleaning Windows by George Formby, which is another wonderfully jaunty tune. I honestly can't abide Obla Dee Obla Da being on this list. I find it joyous and infectious, a cracking little sing-along, and so wonderfully celebratory of the mundanity of everyday existence. In other words, if you don't like it, lighten up for goodness sake. With 12 mentions, Hold Me Tight is the first Beatlemania track to make it to the Brown album. I actually don't mind this one either. It's not the early period track that I'd have included first, as you'll well know if you've seen my version. It's got that kind of early Beatles pop build-up and explosion that they did so well in the early days. You know what I'm talking about. They did it with Please Please Me and I Want to Hold Your Hand. A kind of crescendo and build-up before an eventual climax accompanied with a woo or a head shake that'll drive the girls insane. Now this song doesn't hold a candle to those, but I quite like it. In fact, on an album that I consider their weakest, I've got it ranked as my second favourite song. Today at least. I mean, it might change tomorrow. Anyway, the people have spoken, and here it sits on your version of the Brown album.
Rocky Raccoon checked into his room.
Now, somewhere in the White Album track list, there lives a little song named Rocky Raccoon. And it seems that you miserable lot are not fans. With 11 mentions, it closes out this version of the Brown album. Okay, fine. I mean, there are plenty of little odds and sods scattered across the White Album that wouldn't make the cut if it weren't for the sheer sprawl of the thing. And this one is very much in the filler camp. But I'm fond enough of it to spare it from my version of the Brown album. I've always quite liked the double entendre gag of, you know, Rocky going to the room and finding Gideon's Bible, but that also meaning that he found his faith as a result of it. He found Gideon's Bible. Get it? Anyway, that's the last song from your version of the Brown album, and it clocks in at 43 minutes 57 seconds. Just shy of 44 minutes of meh. Now, before I show you the full list, with my Brown album songs included, let's take a final comments break. Here's an interesting interpretation of Eleanor Rigby. Okay, if we are considering the ideas behind the lyrics, the motivation for the song, I am choosing Eleanor Rigby. After hearing this song for decades, I suddenly realised that the message behind it is, if only this spinster and this priest had have made sweet love, they could have had a groovy time together, man. Can't say I ever interpreted it quite like this, baggy trousers R6G. And here's another perfectly reasonable comment. I have to disagree with at least 6 of your choices. Misery, You Like Me Too Much, Your Mother Should Know, Only a Northern Song, Piggies, and Good Night all don't belong on the Brown album in my opinion, which I followed up with just a little exploratory comment. What would you replace them with? And the reply was, Hey Jude, I Will, Eleanor Rigby, Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds, No Reply, and Come Together. To which I responded with, Go to jail. Go directly to jail. Do not pass go. Do not collect £200. And finally, I've saved the best till last. Ladies and gentlemen, I present quite possibly the finest YouTube comment on the internet, courtesy of Ken Leak. That Cows Come Home line would be okay if you could make the album somehow now the Brown Cow album. To be honest, there's plenty of tracks where it would fit on each album, from Meet the Beatles to Let It Beef. Examples, Ox Me Why, Michelle Cowbell, Mr. Moonlight, Another Girl, Steer There and Everywhere, the double grade A-side singles Straw Dairy Fields for Heifers, Cow Patty Lane, Back in the USDA, the continuing story of Buffalo Bill, the Longhorn Winding Road, the Bull Ad Hoof John and Yocox, Hey Chewed, or George's later solo cut, Try Some Bison. I've had to re-record this line so many times because I couldn't stop myself from laughing. First class content. Right, let's now take a look at the final ranking of Brown album worthy songs. Remember when I said this?
Now, if somebody agreed with me, then I took that as a tally for each of the songs that I included on my version. It's worth bearing that in mind because inevitably there's a kind of bias towards my version of the Brown album and the songs that I chose, and that's somewhat unavoidable.
I did say that in this very video. about 15 minutes ago. So it should come as no surprise that my choices dominate the top of your list too. Top of the pile is Wild Honey Pie, thank goodness, with 51 mentions. Followed by Dig It, Little Child. I mean, I won't go through the whole thing, you can see it here. But what I'd point out is that there's a point where Revolution 9 and Maxwell Silver Hammer crop up in the mentions tally among my choices before concluding with my picks again. Misery, Don't Bother Me, and so on. So clearly these tracks are the ones that you tend to disagree with me the most, even though plenty of you still do agree. Now, as if to emphasise that this is all just opinion and there are no right or wrong answers, here are some mentions that are just plain wrong. Tomorrow Never Knows. Hey Jude. What? Here, There and Everywhere. Are you f***ing kidding me? I Am the Walrus. Come Together. You can't be serious! Yesterday. All jokes aside, thank you for taking this long and winding road down Brown J Way. I've really enjoyed reading your comments and your rationales, and some of your rantings. Although, some of you are quite clearly insane. If you've enjoyed this video, please give it a like. And remember to subscribe for more what if videos just like this. Hit up the comments section with your reactions to the community version of the Brown album, and show some love to the featured commenters too. If you can't think of anything to comment with, just put your favourite cow-based pun in there from Ken Leack's comment. I can't get over straw dairy fields for heifers. I think about it most days. All that's left to say is, ta-ra for now, and thanks for watching.